All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We will go ahead and get started because we have a very full agenda. Again, my name is Veronica Aplenc. I'm co-chair of the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee, and we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. The CCRA is a 75-plus-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to becoming a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. The CCRA is the recognized registered community organization, RCO, for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street to JFK Boulevard and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. Our committee works as follows. First, applicants are to present. We ask applicants address the specific refusals or referrals. We ask for no interruptions as applicants give their full presentation. After the presentation, the zoning committee will have a chance to ask questions. After the zoning committee's questions are completed, we open the meeting to the community. When addressed, we ask that you state your name and address. We ask that you keep your questions succinct and to the variance being discussed. We also ask that people not repeat other people's questions. If you agree with someone else's position, you are welcome to simply state so. If there's a spokesperson for the neighbors, we ask that this person speak first for the group. After we hear from all applicants and listen to the community comments, our committee meets in closed session. We vote in one of three ways: oppose, not oppose, not oppose with provisos. The CCRA never votes in favor of any application. Our decision is emailed to the council person, the ZBA, the applicant, and is also posted on the CCRA website. Importantly, no matter how we decide, if you are concerned with a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. The CCRA zoning committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA. This evening, we have 5 cases, and this is the order we will go in. 2012 Spruce Street, 1741 South Street, 2307 Nowdane Street, 1604 Chestnut Street, 1415 to 17 South 15th Street. Before we start, I just want to remind everybody about 2 types of variances: a refusal and a referral. In a refusal, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate why the committee and the community, that is, should accept the zoning change. And in a referral, the burden is on the community why not to accept the zoning change. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead and get started, and we'll hear our first case, which is 2012 Spruce Street. So let me go ahead and read you that variance. So this is an application for the erection of a 1-story addition over rear 4th floor level with roof deck over it, and with roof deck across structure and elevator access, and for the erection of deck addition in rear 1st floor level, and for the erection of roof deck at rear 4th floor level of an existing single family structure. This is a refusal. And the reason is non-conforming structures may be expanded or extended, provided that the expanded or extended area complies with all provisions of 14-701, whereas the proposed rear 4th-story addition increases the existing non-conformity height and is refused. The rear building height allowed is 38 feet, existing 44 feet, proposed 53 feet, 10.5 inches. Now, because we have 5 cases this evening, we're going to ask presenters to limit their presentations to 10 minutes apiece. And I believe that our attorney for 2012 is Stephanie Boggs-Magana.
Yes, good evening. Thank you.
Good evening. Apologies for any mispronunciations. Let me turn it over to you for your presentation.
No problem. As mentioned, my name is Stephanie Magani. I'm an attorney at Claire Harrison here on behalf of Kristen Leslie and her husband Cal, who are the owners of 2012 Spruce Street. Kristen would like to introduce herself very briefly before we get started. So keeping in mind the time constraints, which we'll honor, I'll turn it over to Kristen for a second to introduce herself briefly. Kristen, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm Kristen Leslie. I just wanted to introduce myself and show a face to the name. I'm excited about the potential of moving into the neighborhood. Where just a little background, where we live in Philly now. We're raising our family here and have always been in this neighborhood. So just to give a little background on us, that we're really looking for like our forever home is what we're creating here for ourselves, for my family and my 3 kids and my husband and I. And I used to have a business on the block called Sip and Glow, and my daughter goes to school right around the corner at CPS. So I look forward to being really involved in the community further.
Thanks, Kristen. So I'll share my screen here, but as I do, I'll just reiterate that this project, as was mentioned, is about the property at 212 Spruce Street. It's occupied by an existing classic Rittenhouse Square brownstone, really here. Kristen and her husband purchased this property about a year ago from the prior owner, who had converted it from what had been transformed into apartments back into a single family home. So they bought it as a single family home. And as you can see, the home kind of maintains much of its very original character and design, and that carries through into the interior of this property. So as Kristen mentioned, they bought the home looking to make this their permanent residence. They're in the neighborhood and they would like to stay here for them and their children. So the formal layout and design of this home makes the modern lifestyle for a family somewhat difficult. So they are looking to make certain renovations and additions to this property so that it makes it suitable for their use as kind of their permanent residence here in the city. One of those additions is the reason we're here. It is the 4th floor extension. To extend out the existing 4th floor does require a technical variance to kind of expand that condition. The 4th floor has an existing height that exceeds what is otherwise permitted in the RM1 district. So we are seeking a variance to allow us to extend that out. And before we get into the design, I'll note that much care has been taken about the character and aesthetics of this design so that what is being proposed is consistent with the character and integrity of the neighborhood. One, because that is their intention with this home, which has maintained much of its historical character, but also because this property is located within the Rittenhouse Fittler Historic District, and it is noted as a contributing property. So the property, this design that you'll see, John Markerly from Boxwood Architect is our project architect, and he's going to walk through the plans here in a minute, but has been reviewed by the Historic Commission and received conceptual approval in August. And Kristen has also shared some of this design with the near neighbors, and we're happy to say that we've spoken to the immediate neighbor at 210 Spruce Street on the 4th floor unit and have a letter of support from them. With that being said, I'll turn it over to John to go through some of the specifics of the design so that you can see what's being proposed here. And if there are any questions about procedure, I'll be happy to come back and answer any questions. So John, I'll stop sharing my screen and let you pull the plans up, and we can go through what is being proposed.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time tonight. My business partner, Sal Guerrero, is also on the Zoom and is going to move through the plan set. We do have a 3D model, which I think we could share at the end if as needed. However, and I'll try to keep quick just relative to the time constraint. So this is a building section. You can see on the left side of the screen is that shows each floor with the existing 4th floor as the condition that is present on the site, and the gray area there is what we're proposing to extend the existing 4th floor towards the rear of the property. Go ahead, Sal. Maybe. And this is a plan view showing the roof deck as it would exist at the above the addition area to include the penthouse access from the stair. And the program does look to introduce a residential elevator to the project, which if acceptable would provide access as well to this level. Sal, can you move to the 3D view showing the existing and the proposed? I think, relative. Yeah, so here you can see in the lower right of this page, this is really a duplication, whereas on the lower right, you see a rendering of the existing condition, and then directly to the left of that, you see that the proposed does not affect the sight line aspect, which is something that we talked about with the Historic Commission when we presented the project. So this is really just to kind of iterate that from the Spruce Street side, everything that's existing visually stays existing to remain. So then we have the same condition. If you go south to the on the up, just go to the view above that, please. So here you can see a kind of bird's eye view of the structure from Spruce Street, and you can kind of see on the right hand image where the existing condition goes back that. I forget the exact dimension, that 30 feet or so, but then on the left, you can see the proposed addition then behind that. And we also have that view from Cypress Street, which is the street to the south, which you can see here. This is a direct view from the rear of the property, where you see on the right the existing condition, and then to the left, the condition with the addition proposed. And then I believe we also, Sal, can you go to the bird's eye view from Cypress, if you will? So here you can see just some additional shots from the rear, where you see kind of at grade what that condition is in the lower right, and then directly above it is the vantage point with the addition included. And then the lower left image is the existing condition, and the upper left image is the condition with the addition. Sal, would you mind zooming into that 5.1? One of the things I just wanted to point out in terms of our couple iterations back and forth with the Historic Commission is the condition where Sal is hovering there is, in essence, the back mansard of the existing fourth floor. And one of the stipulations that they had in their approval was to align the addition so that roof line turned the corner from the existing rear of the fourth floor and became the addition line all the way around. So we modified the design at that point. We had it a little bit higher relative to the ceiling heights inside. However, we modified that height to accommodate allowing those top of roof line to be consistent with the existing condition. Also, just iterate in conversations with the Leslies, a lot of care has been taken. The project was restored. There have been multiple uses for the building over the years. The initiative is to try to maintain as much of the architectural integrity with inside the property, which I know is not part of the zoning variance here, but just for the sake of the passion we had being able to see this incredible home, just to iterate that the intent is that on the first and second, third floors to reclaim and repurpose the millwork and the moldings and conditioned reflected ceiling plan with the ornate conditions there. And then as an opportunity here to introduce the program requirements, then this floor would look to kind of address potentially a little more modern design interior, just given the era with which it's being proposed. So happy to take questions if there are more. Continue on we have other images, but we have a 3D model of all of this where we could walk around as well. However, I think at this point, happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thank you for a clear presentation and also being very focused. At this point, I will turn to the zoning committee, and we'll move through questions with them, and then we'll open it up to the community. Bob Lane, any questions?
I guess for the lawyer, Stephanie, what is the hardship as to why this property couldn't be used effectively without this increased height?
Sure. So the home, when it was restored from its condition, when the prior owners restored the home, they restored much of its original design kind of layout. This home was originally constructed in approximately 1860. it maintains much of that formal design and character, which makes it unsuited for a modern family and their lifestyle. And as we mentioned, the Leslies are looking to make this their permanent residence for them and their 3 children. So the goal is to make sure that there is enough space to accommodate a modern family inside of this, what is otherwise a historic home.
So it's personal, not something unique about the property. Thank you.
Well, no, it's unique about the design of this property because this property, it's not every day you run into a home that is as meticulously maintained with as much historic character as this one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob Cooper, any questions?
No questions.
Karen Moskowitz, any questions? Not hearing any. Joyce Lee, any questions?
I did have one
My
question.
question
Okay.
is, my question is, how many buildings on the block have elevators? The applicants know. I guess that's quite unusual, or is it not? Or it's very common.
John, I don't know if you are aware of how many have elevators, but something that I think we left out of our presentation in the interest of time is you'll see the dark shaded figures on this plan that are shown. So we are noting the other properties along this block that have 4th floor built out as well. So this addition is in keeping with kind of other properties in the area, although not immediately next to this one. There is precedent for this 4th floor expansion in the neighborhood. So that is what's shown in the dark gray shading on this plan are the other properties that have this 4th floor build out as well.
And we weren't able to gather any research in terms of what properties have or don't have elevator conditions.
And last question is the choice of material. It's very dark. Is it just to match the roof, or how did you come to that?
Yeah, that was really feedback from the historic commission. They were looking for us to match with the slate shingle. They were looking to match the existing condition. So that's really what motivated us to kind of fall in line with that finish on the mansard. And then the other finishes there, you see the decking material and a proposed finish for the pilot house. However, all of that, subject to final approval with the historic commission, with our initiative of getting through zoning, proposing the zoning aspect first. Final decisions on materials would come during that, building application and historic review for finishes, which I think was one of the provisos that they wrote in their approval, that, those finishes and materials need to be presented to them at the time with which we would be applying for the building permit.
Great, thank you. Karen Moskowitz, did you have a question?
You know what? They answered it about, I wanted to know about the sight line and how many other 4 stories there were on the block. So they've answered it.
Great, thank
Thanks.
you. Sylvie Lorente?
Yes, to continue on this, I see the addition of 1 more floor, but I see more. I see a few things beyond, so that makes you higher than the buildings around you, correct? Because you have a bunch of things on the roof. And are you planning to use this roof? And if not, why is it necessary to have those things that make you higher than the rest of the neighborhood?
Sal, can you zoom in potentially on that image or another one that might capture it? So you're correct. Yes, there is a proposed pilot house, which is the condition he's hovering over there, which would be the stair access to the roof deck that we're proposing above the addition. And then the central square there represents the overrun for the elevator shaft, as well as access at that level. And then there to the left there, you can see there's a brick chimney that is an existing condition that we would look to just extend in order to comply with the code requirements for the chimney clearances.
And because you will be higher than your neighbors, what do the neighbors think of this project?
So I know, and Stephanie and Kristen could comment more about it than me, but I know that the effort was made to communicate, and there are letters of support from from neighbors. I don't believe there was any opposition, but I'm probably speaking out of turn. I'll pass that to you guys.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So just to declare the structures that John was pointing out, I'll note that they're compliant with the requirements for structures that are residential roof access structures. So this will be classified as a roof deck, used as a residential roof deck, which would be permitted. And the structures comply with the height requirements and the size limitations for those structures in the city generally. The most affected neighbor, in our opinion, would be the neighbor kind of to the right here in this image at 210 Spruce Street. That is a 4-unit building. The owners or occupants of the 4th floor that are kind of immediately next to where this addition is being proposed, we do have a letter of support from them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
No questions.
Charles Robin,
Questions, thank you.
Ben Weinrau.
Yeah, they mentioned the feedback from 2010 Spruce, anything from 2014 Spruce on the other side?
Nothing as of yet. That is primarily a commercial property is our understanding. So we have shared the information with them, reached out to them directly. We haven't received any comments in response.
And in the chart, more for the architect, I didn't see the current building square footage and the proposed building square footage. And also relative to historic, the 2 back chimneys that are existing, I guess the lower, I assume they're not in use and historic's okay with abandoning them?
I mean, we talked about extending just to take the chimney question, we talked about extending the chimney with historic. I don't recall a specific conversation about removing the ones that would be abandoned programmatically, but certainly happy to have that conversation with them, relative to the impact of removing them. And I apologize, I don't know the specific square footages here on the Zoom in terms of the existing versus the proposed, but I can provide that information.
I mean, the city has the improvement area at 7363. You don't know the addition square footage?
Sal or Ashley, do you guys know that off the top of your head? No, Sal, your audio is down. If you could text me. Well, we can get that here as we're going through. We have access to the CAD file. I'm a bit remote, so give me 30 seconds. We'll get it.
Any other questions, Ben? Thank you. Evan Litvin, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
The proposed is 900 square feet. I apologize. I didn't have that teed up.
Great, thank you. Doug Meller, any questions?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Technically, is this a 4-story, or with the basement, is that a 5-story? You come in at the lowest level and then you go up 4?
At the Spruce Street side, you come up, the grade level is approximately 5 feet above street level, but correct in the sense that on the Cypress side, there's actually, it goes down to access the basement level. However, you can also go up to access the grade level as well. So relative to that lowest level from grade, I'm not specifically sure, because it is sort of a split condition where in as much as you enter at grade on the Spruce Street side, but at the basement, walkout basement level on the Cypress side.
So you're adding a 4th floor then in the overall.
Yes.
And then you're putting a deck on top of that. And the 2 edifices on the top, do they exceed the 120 square feet for a pilot house?
No, those roof deck structures are compliant. So the only condition that requires a variance is the variance to extend out the existing 4th floor, to expand an existing non-conforming condition. Everything else is being proposed. All the other additions are compliant with the zoning code.
And I think Bob asked this, but where's the hardship?
This home was restored when it was restored by the prior owner to keep much of its historic character and original layout, which was originally constructed in 1860. So the Leslies are looking to make this their permanent residence for their home as a modern family lives, which is incongruent with the way an 1860s Rittenhouse Square brownstone was laid out. So these renovations are connected to making sure that this property can function for them as their permanent residence.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this point, I'd like to open it up to community questions. I believe I've asked all of the committee members. So if you're a community member and you have something, a question that you would like to pose, or if you have a position on this property, I would ask that you please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see hands raised. You can find the raised hands feature at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so I'm not seeing any raised hands, so I'd like to now invite any community members to just unmute themselves if they have a comment about this property or a question about this property. Going once? Going twice? All right, well, I see none. All right, well, with that, what we will do is we will go ahead and close the discussion on this property. I'd like to thank the Stephanie Magnana and the owners for a very clear presentation. Thank you for having clearly and concisely laid out everything about this property and what you're looking for. And we will go ahead and close this conversation, and we will move forward to the next property since we have a full agenda this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, we're going to move on to our second property, and this is 1741 South Street. So here, the application is for a proposed use as a sit-down and take-out restaurant on the first floor of an existing building. And this is a referral. And just as a reminder, a referral is, in the case of a referral, the burden is on the community why not to accept the zoning change. The reason for the referral is whereas the proposed use, takeout restaurant, requires special exception approval from the zoning board of adjustment in the CMX2 commercial zoning district. So I believe the attorney is Alex Goldberg.
That's correct.
So hello, and I'd like to invite you to present.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I will be brief, I promise. My name's Alex Goldberg from the law firm Knockhamson PC. I am here with Halim Esderi, who's the owner of Lazaro's Pizzeria and Grill that you see on the screen. And he's on screen, I imagine, scrolling down to find him, with Phil Voutsakis, who is, assisting him through this process and actually owns the building at 1743 South Street. The subject of this zoning matter is 1741 South Street. I've noted that as the right side, as you can see on the screen. Halim opened his business here in 1999. He was telling me that he was one of the in this sort of generation of business owners on this portion of South Street. He was there before many of them. He operated on just the left side for quite some time. He had the benefit of existing permitting for sit down and takeout use. So it was fine to do so. He then expanded into 1741 without the benefit of those permits, really just for seating. And you'll see the photos and the floor plans of both sides because they are sort of used complementary, but there's no puncture in the party wall here. These are two separate properties. They're two separate property owners. There's two separate leases. So it's a little bit of a funky situation here. We're essentially seeking zoning for seating and storage for the right side of the existing pizza restaurant. We're doing all of this in response to violations that were issued 15 years or so after this all happened. But ultimately we need to go through this process and get all the paperwork straightened out. So as you mentioned, Veronica, this is a special exception. So you're looking at a notice of referral. Right now, it says the application is just for a takeout restaurant. I'm working with L&I to clean that up so that it can exactly match the uses that are on the 1743 use permits, which is sit down and takeout. Although everyone should understand there's no cooking equipment on the 1741 South Street side. It's just seating and storage. But we want the permits to match so that this can sort of be as clean as possible. Here's that zoning permit for 1743 that we sort of reobtained recently to document an existing flat wall sign. This was obtained, essentially last week. We had violations on both sides. This one related to the signage, but I included it because it also references the eat-in and takeout use that is existing at this property. Zoning map, this is a CMX2 property near the corner of 18th and South. Google Maps perspective as well. Halim serves a lot of Penn Hospital overflow. Here's photographs of the front. Here it is in 07 when it was just the left side of the property. It's been many uses on the right side over the course of time. Here it is expanding onto 1741 and 1743 in 2009, and it's been that way ever since. To the left of to the right of the property, excuse me, and to the left. Trash storage is in the rear. You'll see it on the floor plans. We have trash pickup 6 days a week, every day except Sunday. That occurs between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. 2 96-gallon totes that get rolled through the 1741 South Street side by his employees. Interior photographs, here it is. Just some basic tables. My understanding is he has his own crew of delivery guys. They kind of hang out in here with any patrons that are eating their pizza while they're waiting for delivery calls. Here it is from another perspective, folding boxes. Both of these properties have access to the rear. Here's the 1743 South Street side. No use sort of L&I related appeals or anything for this side of the property. It's all zoned properly. I'll note sort of before I go to the plans, just quickly that the hours are as follows: Monday to Thursday, 11 a.m. to 8:45 p.m. Friday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9:45 p.m. Sunday is noon to 8:45. The employees arrive about an hour before open and leave about an hour after close. Here's the plans that were submitted for the signage in a separate zoning permit application. Existing signage, nothing about this zoning process related to these properties is proposing anything new. We're seeking to legalize existing uses. On the right side, you see the first floor of 1743 and 1741, very basic floor plan. In this sort of courtyard, rear yard space is where there's a walk-in refrigerator and the trash storage area. There's a bathroom and seating on the 1741 South Street side. Halim has 6 employees per shift, 2 at the counter, 3 doing grill and salads, 2 making pizza, 1 in the basement doing dishes and prep, 4 drivers. He has security cameras, and again, basement is just used for storage. Meeting notice sent out in a timely fashion. It was also emailed out, 141 nearby properties. Proof of mailing, the lease of the property. He's leased through 2028 with an automatic renewal. The ZBA hearing is scheduled for February 19th at 2 p.m. So with that, I'll unshare. Halim is standing by. He's on Phil's computer, so that's where you see Phil sitting in the middle there, but we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that concise and clear presentation. Let's move to some committee questions, and then we'll open it up to the community. I'll just call on folks. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Jacob Cooper?
No questions.
Karen Moskowitz? Not hearing any.
No questions.
Joyce Lee? No?
No question.
Sylvie Lorente?
No question, thank you.
Okay, Ben Zuckerman? Ben, you're muted. We can't hear you.
So there will be no food preparation, no cooking, no ovens, no nothing in 1741. Is that correct?
My understanding, is that correct, Halim?
Yes, sir.
So all the venting and everything for whatever is being cooked is in 1743?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Charles Robin?
Questions, thank you.
Ben Weinraub,
No questions.
Evan Litvin,
No questions.
Doug Miller, no questions. Well, we are moving very quickly. I believe that I've gotten all of the committee members. Now let me ask the community if there are any community members who would like to speak, have a question or have a position that they'd like to state about this property. If so, please raise your hand. The raise hand feature is at the bottom of your screen. Okay. So I don't see any raised hands. So I'd like to invite any community members who would like to ask a question or state their position about this property to go ahead and unmute and go ahead and tell us your position or your question. Okay, I hear none. Well, this is indeed a very quick case. Since we have such a full agenda, I'm going to thank our presenters, Alex Goldberg and the owners. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move to our third case since we do have a very full agenda. Thank you for a clear and concise presentation. And we will move forward to the next property.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, so now we will move to our third property. And this property is 2307 Nowdane Street. And the variance at hand is, this is an application for the legalization of an addition with roof deck and pilot house enclosing access stairs only to an existing attached structure used as single-family household living, with no changes to existing building footprint. The reason for the refusal is, whereas a rear wall does not meet a rear yard minimum depth requirement, a vertical extension of that wall is an increase of that specific nonconformity and is not permitted. Whereas the proposed addition extends the nonconforming rear wall located 0 feet from the rear lot line and extends it vertically at 5 feet 6 inches from the rear lot line, less than a minimum of 9 feet in the RSA 5 residential district. So I believe that the attorney is Lisa Smith Goodman, and you're on the call.
I am not an attorney.
Oh, my mistake.
The attorney is Vern Anastasio, but prior to him being engaged, I was handling it through my expediting company. So there is now an attorney, but yes, I am here with the owner.
Okay, thank you. My mistake, Lisa. Vern.
Worries.
Vern, if you'll be presenting, can I turn it over to you?
Well, I will be presenting along with the owner. Vern is not here this evening, right?
Wonderful. Let me turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Marissa, are you there?
I am here.
She would like to introduce herself first. Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. First, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone's time tonight, and then take a moment to introduce myself and provide quick context for today's conversation. My name is Marissa Porges, and my husband Scott and I bought this home a little over 18 months ago in order to move our family into the city and make Fittler Square neighborhood our new home. We've been living there since summer 2023 and loving it, including the fact that we can walk our 2 young children to an area preschool each day. We are nonetheless here with you tonight because of a somewhat strange request. During our house hunting process in spring 2023, we were so excited to find a townhome at 2307 Nowdane, not least because it was, or the townhome we found, not least because it was an older building that had dated back to 1900, but had been fully renovated in 2012 and 2013. As you'll hear from Lisa, all the renovations done by the prior owner over 10 years ago were done in accordance with a zoning and site plan approved by LNI in 2011, the process for which included receiving a zoning permit obtained through the ZBA appeals process and a review by the RCO in 2011. The renovations complied with all city requirements, were inspected by LNI, but unfortunately, as we discovered during the very last stages of our house purchase process, the prior owner never scheduled the final inspection in 2013 when the house was complete. So we bought the home because we were excited by the prospect of making 2307 Nowdane in the neighborhood our home. And now we're simply trying to complete the process that was begun in 2011, completed in 2013, but never documented by the city. So we just want to document existing conditions. No additional construction work is planned of any kind. And we appreciate the neighbors' support in just helping us get as quickly as possible through that process. So Lisa will explain the details, but again, it's a bit of a strange request since everything was completed over a decade ago.
Ready?
And Lisa, do you want to explain the permit, the details?
Yes, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So the zoning permit, the zoning board approved the variance in 2011. So as Marissa was explaining, the permit expired without completion of what's called a certificate of occupancy, which would have legalized the extension. At this point, they were told that they had to reapply for zoning, which they did. It was refused. It is appealed, but the structure is already existing. So the hardship here would be that they would have to take down what has been existing since 2011, previously approved by the zoning board. And additionally, I went to the Historic Society because the property is also in a historic area. So I have received the approval from the Historic Committee as well. So basically what we have here is a project that was approved by the zoning board. A variance was granted in 2011. The work was done, as Marissa explained. The permits were issued, and we just have a simple permit expiration and some paperwork that didn't take place 14 years ago.
Okay.
If you would like, I can pull the refusal up and put it on the screen if you would like. And any information, I think it's kind of redundant because it was already pre-approved in the past and it's existing. But I would be more than happy to show you the refusal, the mailings and everything if you would like.
Okay, well, thank you. The committee received all of those, so thanks for the offer. Why don't we go ahead and move to any committee questions and then to any community questions? Thanks for what was a very clear and straightforward presentation.
You're welcome.
So let me go ahead and start through the committee. I'll just go through. Bob Lane, any questions?
I don't really understand the whole process as to why this was never documented. I know it was like explained, but I don't really grasp what happened.
Would you like me to go over it again?
Well, just
I'd
put
be
your
happy
finger.
to.
So I can, Bob, as I understand it, the very final step in the whole construction process, the final inspection, was just never scheduled in 2013 by the prior owner, not by us. We had nothing to do with this.
Okay, so you came in not knowing anything about
No, in the course of reviewing everything in the paperwork right before closing, like we discovered this, and then we were trying to do the right thing.
this. I understand.
In the formal process to document everything for the city, and then we got.
Yeah, yep. It was. Thank you. No,
Sure,
no
thank you.
further.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Jacob Cooper? Karen Moskowitz?
No questions.
Joyce Lee?
I'm just following up with that question about, does it mean that you're curing a violation?
No, the
Okay.
building was built in accordance with the variance that was described in what was refused. So the house structure exists. We couldn't correct it because in order to correct it, we would have to take down our house that we bought 18 months ago that was done by the prior owner because it's an existing wall. It's like the wall that's upholding the roof deck and the third floor and the house. So there's no cure. It was approved in 2011, built in 2012 and 13. And then we bought it in 2023, not realizing that there'd been never a final inspection with the city, excuse me.
And I guess the question is, why are we, I guess, reviewing here, or would the documentation be sufficient?
So Lisa can talk to the process, but we had to go through the entire process in order to have a final inspection, we had to reapply for the building permit. And then it was refused because the original variance had expired because as I understand it, a new code stipulation was documented in 2018 that if a final inspection isn't completed within 3 years of the original variance, the original permit expires. So the original PIRE from 2011 expired in between it being built and us purchasing the home. And then we had to start the process again. And now we are stuck in the process. And I appreciate everyone's support.
Thank you.
Process.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let me just ask if any of, since I'm hearing other committee members have not had questions, and a few have, are there any other committee members whom I haven't called, whose names I haven't called, who have questions that they would like to ask? I welcome you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a quick question. Just to confirm, according to the records online, the city transferred the deed in 2023 as a single family house residence, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other committee questions from committee members?
Yes. I'm sorry. What year was the original variance issued?
2011.
2011.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
On this, she's translated all of this for me, so I understand it a bit now.
Okay. Any other committee questions? All right. Well, thank you for that. Now let's turn to the community. Are there any community members who have a question or have a position that they'd like to state about this property? If you do, please raise your hand. The raise hand feature is at the bottom of your screen. Okay. Not hearing any, I welcome any community members to unmute themselves and ask their questions, state their position. Okay, not hearing any. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa Smith-Goodman, and the owner as well. I think you presented clearly, and I appreciate the clarity and the conciseness. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So since we have a full agenda, I'm going to go ahead and continue on to our next 4th out of 5 properties. And this property is 1604 Chestnut Street. Now let me read what this is for you. So this is an application for an eating and drinking establishment, takeout restaurant with accessory storage in basement, 1st and 2nd floor of an existing structure with other existing uses in the structures previously approved. Now this is a referral. And the reason for the referral is the proposed use, eating and drinking establishment, takeout restaurant, requires a special exception approval by Zoning Board of Adjustment. I believe the attorney is Brett Feldman, who's on the call. All right, so I'll turn it over to you for a 10-minute presentation.
Great, thank you. I'll just share my screen now. Can everyone see that then?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good evening. Brett Feldman, 1835 Market Street, the law firm Claire Harrison, and I represent McDonald's in this application, as you mentioned, for a referral at 1604 Chestnut Street. I'm joined by today Alex Ortiz. Alex, are you out there?
Yes, sir.
Great. Alex is the regional construction manager up and down the East Coast for McDonald's. But Alex, just briefly, if you could just also provide the committee your ties to Philadelphia in this area.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, from Philadelphia.
You're gonna be doing a lot of the speaking tonight.
Yeah, from Philadelphia. I went to Drexel University. I went to Masterman High School in Center City, so I know the area really well. Spent a lot of time on Chestnut and Walnut Street and at 30th Street Station and Suburban Station when I would take the train home. So yeah, know the city well, and I'm excited to be working on this project, and hopefully we can get the community support here.
Great. Thank you, Alex. I'll be turning to you shortly. We're also joined by Bowler Engineering, Kirsten Calabro, and Thomas Kriebel. So let me get right to it. I guess you've picked up the pace of the meeting, but I still want to try to get right to it here. This is a rendering of what the proposed McDonald's at 1604 Chestnut Street. It's a little bit of a longer story, and I just wanted to touch on kind of how we got to where we are here. I think everyone knows there was a McDonald's on the 1700 block of Walnut Street until 2020. And I actually was working. We had just obtained approvals for a complete refurbishment of that restaurant. We knew it was tired. We knew it needed work. We had worked with Historic Commission. We had worked with the Art Commission. We had worked with L&I. We were about to embark on the redevelopment of that location. And then I think, as we all know, what happened in May 2020. Obviously, there was the unrest in Center City. There was a fire. There was a fire at 3 buildings, including the McDonald's. Ultimately, the McDonald's needed to be that building needed to be demolished, as well as 2 other ones. And since that, McDonald's has been working, now for, I guess, 4+ years. McDonald's has been looking to come back into Center City. Here's an article that was in the Inquirer about McDonald's, hopeful return to the city. There's really 2 things. We're looking for a great location, but also have been working on a new prototype that we would be more upscale prototype for the location. And we think we've got the location at 1604, but also we think we have the right prototype for this. And if you've had a chance yet to see the new prototype, there is one. And I just wanted to quickly bring this to everyone's attention at 40th and Walnut Street. This was a standalone McDonald's location for many, many years. And Alex, you just opened this restaurant up, I guess, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Yes,
briefly,
University City, UPenn.
Yeah,
great support.
I just wanted, if you just want to briefly just talk about this, because I wanted to show these pictures, because this is, we have renderings, we have floor plans, but this is really the best way to understand what we think this McDonald's is going to look like in terms of operation, as far as look, as far as feel, as far as signage, as far as the technology, as far as the cameras and safety and security. So this is the outside, right, Alex, at 40th?
Yes, sir. That's University City location, 40th.
Yes, and that's part of, I think, a 5-story building that's over there.
Mm-hmm.
A very simple, clean look and sign package. And then here's the inside. Alex, you just want to briefly talk about the inside here of, kind of the...
Yeah, sure. So what we have is our new city prototype package for decor on the interior. It's really an upscale kind of cafe kind of vibe to it, and also has the latest in terms of ordering technology. So there's touch screens ordering, and then there's also support for digital ordering and app ordering as well. So what you're seeing is the latest and greatest in terms of technology and presentation. And we didn't spare any expenses on the finishes in Philadelphia in the city location. So we kind of would love to take the same approach at the location at 1604.
Great. And this would be very, very similar, if not identical, as far as the look, the feel, the technology. Just want to flip through some of these pictures. Here's what it looks like at night at 40th and Walnut Street. So that being said, here is the proposed location, 1604 Chestnut Street. I think most recently was the Portobello men's store. And what we're looking to do here is it's a charming building. It's got a lot of great features to it. There's going to be $1 million, $1.5 million that's going to need to be invested in this building to roof, systems, structural, but to repurpose the building for McDonald's, keeping all the architectural features that you see here, but cleaning up this front and then refurbishing the rest of the building. That's what's out there right now at Portobello. Here is the rendering showing, again, very minimal work to the outside as far as any changes. This is the sign package here, which is, again, similar to 40th and Walnut Street. And this has already been, we wanted to reach out to the Art Commission, the sign committee, to make sure that the signage that we were showing here was appropriate. They've reviewed it and approved it, as you're seeing right now in front of you. And then here's the floor plan. Alex, do you want to just walk the committee through a little bit of the floor plan and how this will operate?
Yeah, sure. So what you're seeing in kind of like the salmon color is our dining room, the lobby area. And then, so that's where customers can come in and sit. We will have we are proposing two ADA restrooms within that dining area. And then the green area is our transaction counter. Behind the green area is, well, which was in blue. I think the blue might have shifted there, but that blue area is basically all kitchen. That's the all of the equipment and kitchen that's needed to support, typical McDonald's in an urban location like this one without a drive-through.
Yeah. So most of the ordering again will be on these touch screens, correct?
Yes, we'll get a lot of ordering through touchscreens, and we also now with a lot of our customers get ordering through the app as well. So they'll order on their phones, get a better deal, and then they'll just come in and pick up at the front counter.
Great, great. As was mentioned, here is the zoning referral. It's not a refusal, it's a referral. And, I think typically as far as burden of proof, it is, referral, special exception. If there's something about the use that is, the impact would be much more significant than you would expect. It wouldn't be, it would be something that would be looked at unfavorably as part of the zoning board. Here, we don't believe
To
that.
interrupt, but just a friendly reminder, you have about a minute left for your 10-minute slot.
Great, Alex. And I think we really wanted to open up this question. I think people know how McDonald's operates, but this is, we're really excited about this location. This is, we'll have an operator here that will be, a top operator, and who will be graded based on, will be selected based on their ability to make sure that this is really can operate as a flagship McDonald's here in the city. But we wanted to open this up to questions. We have internal trash storage. We have a full safety and security package, cameras, and we expect that we'll be receiving those questions, and we'll then like to be able to answer those questions.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you for that clear presentation. And thank you for remaining within the 10-minute guideline. I'll just go ahead and go through the committee. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Jacob Cooper?
Hey, Brett, hours of operation?
Absolutely. Alex, we did a survey in the area of other operators, and ultimately what we looked at here was during the week, because we serve breakfast, it'd be 5 a.m. To 1 a.m. and then Thursday through Sunday 5 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay. Thank you. Karen, Jacob, did you have other questions or that's it?
I don't think so. Well, actually, I do. Brett, loading, I imagine, will be through the rear of the property, right off the back alley.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
And are there designated loading times that you know of, or that will be, or trash delivery times that you can talk to?
Yeah, sure. Alex, this is, I know that the preference is obviously earlier in the morning, correct here?
Yeah, the food deliveries and trash deliveries typically would align in that early morning slot, early just prior to breakfast. But the thing we have to keep in consideration is that our food delivery partner, they're called Martin Brower, they have truck routes within that area. And at sometimes they may vary the route depending on traffic conditions, depending on all sorts of other factors. So ideally, we'd like to do it, early AM for food delivery and trash pickup. So Martin Brower's for food. Trash is a separate animal entirely. We can typically schedule that ourselves, and we would typically schedule that for early AMs multiple times per week. But the Martin Brower deliveries, again, we will target that for an early AM food delivery. And that process is typically about 15 to 30 minutes. The food arrives on palletized system with palletized carts with wheels. And so those are carted right into the back of the facility and right into our cooler and freezer. And then the carts are taken back out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Karen Moskowitz?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up on that. When you say early morning, what time is early morning? Is that 5 a.m.? Is that
I think it's
8 a.m.?
we typically target somewhere between 5 and 7. Again, it's going to vary depending on the operator, the pickup, and other factors. So I wouldn't want to say it's guaranteed going to be at that time, but that's the
Yeah.
time that works well for
Yeah.
McDonald's operations for the team. And also it aligns with the typical trash pickup so that it's not like right, in the middle of the night.
And Alex, I wanted to add one more thing. I know it's really important. The operator that's selected here, and this is a valuable location. This, to be selected as an operator, it means you're kind of the best of the best in the area. We will be providing that operator's information to the community. So, if there's any questions or concerns moving forward, there will be a contact person who's available, who's in this area, and who can certainly attend any meetings also to address any concerns. And that's something that's been stressed to that pool of operators, the importance of communication with the community.
100%.
so I'm
And a
look-
location like this will have a top level operator. The operator hasn't been assigned yet, but it will be a top level operator. And typically what they will do is they will have engagement sessions with the community. They'll do, community activities, grand openings, donations to local food banks. They do a lot of great activities and great community outreach to help develop the communication. And additionally, when it comes to things that are important to the community, operators do have a lot of flexibility to be able to compromise with the community on whatever topics might come up or whatever questions or issues might come up.
I mean, I'm looking at the picture that's up on the screen right now, and I'm assuming next to, on both sides of McDonald's are apartment houses. Have you gotten feedback from the people living in those areas, in those apartments?
Yeah, we sent out the community notices. It's a little bit hard to communicate. With I don't know who's on those upper floors. I know this was a bank here, but we haven't heard any concerns about this or any feedback. There have been several articles about the Inquirer in the Inquirer on Philly.com about this. So, we think it's fairly well known in the area that this application is here today.
Yeah, and also important to note that the restaurant would be limited to the first floor. The upper floors would not be utilized. The basement is used for storage. So just from that perspective, it's not an operation that's going to generate a lot of noise, like a bar or like a club or something like that. But it would be limited to the first floor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you.
Joyce Lee, any questions?
Yes, my question is, can you talk about the latest strategies in dealing or preventing loitering? And is your operator going to be educated and have any experience in that? And also the hiring of a security guard. Do you usually have security guards in urban stores?
Sure.
So yeah,
Alex,
so
I know
I'll start-
we talked about the whole safety and security plan that we've got available here. If you want to just go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things. So first, just in lighting and design, that we'll have LED lighting to kind of limit any dark areas. So with the way this is laid out, the front of the building literally is the front of our so you've got sidewalk and then you've got our entrance there. So there isn't a lot of room for panhandling and loitering. So that's one thing. The second thing is we will typically have upwards of 20 security cameras built into a typical location, and that wouldn't be different here. So cameras are part of it. They're very conspicuous cameras, so people see them and they know that they're on and they're working. Additionally, our McDonald's has a training program for every store manager, every assistant manager, and they deal with a couple of items. There's conflict resolution, how to deal with customers that are unruly and out of hand, just how to deal with panhandling. So the training level is there. And as we discussed earlier, with with a location like this one, you're going to get an operator that is, you see the Golden Arches and you think about the big worldwide brand, but ultimately this is a small business. However, this small business operator that we would put in here is probably one that would have multiple other restaurants, upwards of like 15 to 20 restaurants. Folks like that have a complete organization of directors of operations, support staff, training staff. So they're more capable and suited for this type of location in the city where, panhandling could be a concern at some point. So the training is there, the security is there from a camera perspective. The hired security officer is something that is determined sort of on an as needed basis. It's not something that operators go into immediately. They kind of look at it on a one-off basis. In the city, for example, at 40th and Chestnut, that location, they opened up without any security officers. They're running 24 hours a day there, and their folks are trained to address any issues or folks who come up and try to panhandle or any criminal activity. The other piece is the operator, as Brett discussed, you'll have their direct information. They will have direct connection with the local law enforcement agencies. What we will typically do is actually have a great relationship with law enforcement, offer them free coffee and they kind of come through and add McDonald's to their route. And this is something that we do kind of on a standard basis in inner city locations. We develop those relationships with law enforcement, with the community groups, with folks like yourselves, and we partner. And if adjustments have to be made, the operators are typically going to do them, because at the end of the day, they're not going to put their own people at risk, right? And they also don't want to be, a source for any issues in the community. So,
Wonderful. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Joyce Lee, any other questions?
Last question. I guess my recollection is that there's actually a bus stop in front, and there are going to be maybe issues related to health or drugs, those kinds of loitering that may be something that we just need to be aware of.
Yeah. So there is a bus stop directly in front of the restaurant. What commitment that we will typically have from our operators in this case is that they will absolutely assist in helping to keep the area clean, because we realize that some folks who wait for the bus may order some food. So we can include the bus stop area as part of our trash inspections. We do a normal regular inspections, regular cleaning and sanitizing of all the dining room, but we will also go out and take care of the front area.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great. Just want to get through the other committee.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No problem.
We've
Sylvie
thought a lot
Lorente.
about this, let me tell you.
Right. And we do have about 2 minutes left or 4 minutes left for your presentation. So I want to get all committee members and any
That's fine.
community members.
We could talk about
Sylvie
this.
Lorente, you're next. Do you have any questions?
No, my questions were answered. Thank you.
Wonderful. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
Yeah, I want to clarify, all the trash will be stored internally and picked up through the rear alley. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And food deliveries will come in through the rear alley?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have normal standard conditions where we say you can't pick up trash or make deliveries before 7 a.m. so that you don't bother the neighbors. You will be having trash picked up and food deliveries before 7 a.m. Is that correct?
Well, if the 7 a.m. is a requirement, we can work with operations to adjust as much as possible. I'm telling you, we'll be willing to make that commitment. Ideally, earlier than 7 may be better, just to get the trucks and the deliveries out of the way before traffic gets really bad in Center City, right? But again, if that is a requirement, McDonald's will compromise.
And one last question. How will the ventilation be handled? How will the cooking exhaust be vented and where?
We have an exhaust designed out through the back of the facility into the alleyway, and it's a filtered system. It's very similar to what many of the other restaurants in Center City would do.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. Charles Robin, any questions?
Well, I'll just reiterate very briefly that Jacob Cooper did ask my questions, but Joyce touched on exactly what the near neighbors and people around Rittenhouse Square away from 16th and Chestnut, but part of the neighborhood has a deep, deep concern because there's no way adding another McDonald's off of Walnut onto Chestnut, you're not going to have panhandling. You're not going to have people coming within the restaurant. All the urban problems that we know of. Joyce was pretty clear on it, but Brett, and Alex, it sounds nice, but the reality is a situation where you're definitely going to have the street people panhandling in front of the property.
I would say this, I don't want to say that we've got all the answers, but the reason why I wanted to show you the ordering, the way that the ordering is done on these touchscreens is the way the restaurants are now staffed. There used to be a lot of cashiers. There's now very few cashiers, if any. So what's happened in the way that there's now much more staffing now that is to keep that dining room clean and to make sure that that experience within the restaurant is as good as it can be. And that is, it's the same number of staffing, if not more people who used to be at a McDonald's, but they're now apportioned it differently within the restaurant. And if you go to 40th Street, you'll see how many more employees are now in that dining room, keeping it clean, making sure that it's got the right look and the right feel. And that really is a part of kind of the new technology here that's been successful in other locations, similar locations. So,
well, that's definitely interrupted because I have people around Rittenhouse Square that are very concerned about this. Approach me, not going to be on the zoning. So,
yeah,
one thing I can maybe ask if you can answer and I can repeat to them is I didn't realize, Alex, how much more would be like using the touchscreen that's credit as opposed to a cash basis, 50%, 60%, because it's when people come out with loose change. Dunkin' Donuts at 20th and Chestnut.
Yeah.
We have a chronic problem and others. What is the difference with this new operation than you could say would be more with credit cards and percentage with cash?
Yeah, with the younger generation ordering through Uber Eats and ordering through their apps, they're also paying through their apps as much. And there's very, very little cash being exchanged at most locations now, which is why, to Brett's point earlier, we don't need as many folks doing transactions because a lot of it's done either at a card reader or directly on a phone on an app. So
I don't know if it's
the percentages are
50-50
probably.
Is it
I couldn't
80%
give you a
Alex?
percentage.
85% now? Is 90%?
I would say conservatively, I would say maybe 60, 70, just to be safe. It's probably higher, but I don't want to quote something incorrect.
Yeah.
I'd rather get that information for you and come back and give you the exact percentage.
Okay, thank you for that. Charles, any other questions?
No, thank you. Thank you, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Weinraub, thank you. Ben Weinraub, any questions?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just quickly, is McDonald's leasing the entire building? It looks like the only access upstairs would be through the rear of the restaurant itself.
That is correct.
Yes.
And are there any plans for the second, third floors?
No plans at all for the second or third floors. From our perspective, if we try to operate on the second floor with a restaurant, it's a little more difficult, and we really don't want customers or employees climbing stairs unnecessarily. So the part that matters to us is the first floor.
Thank you. And despite the salmon color, you won't be serving salmon.
We will not.
All right. Thank you. Evan Litvin, any questions?
No
Evan-
questions. Thank you.
Great. Doug Meller, any questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you. All right, at this point, I do want to open it up to the community. If there are any community members who have a question or wish to state a position, I invite you to raise your hand. And the raise hand feature is at the bottom of your screen. Okay, not seeing any. If there are any community members who would like to unmute themselves and state a question or state a position, I invite you to do so at this time. All right. I don't see any. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for an extensive presentation and a lively discussion. Thank you for all of that. I'd like to thank Brett Feldman and everyone who's with him. Thank you. And with that, since we do have a full agenda, we're going to go
Thank you for
ahead.
your time and consideration. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move to our fifth and final property today, which is 415 to 17 South 15th Street. So this property is an application for the relocation of a lot line to consolidate two zoning lots into a single lot. For the erection of a 4-story addition attached to an existing 4-story structure and a 4th-story addition over an existing 3-story portion of the structure with multiple roof decks and balconies on the lot. For use as multifamily, 36 dwelling units, household living, size and location is shown on plan. So this proposed zoning is refused for the following reasons. The roof deck setback at Waverly Street required is 5 feet, proposed is none. Building height required 38 feet, proposed 52 feet 1 inches. The minimum open area, the required is 20% of the lot, the proposed is 13% of the lot. So I'm going to turn this over to the presenting attorney. I believe it's Andrea Solomon. Is she on the line?
All right, it will be me. Sorry about that. Michael Phillips will be
wonderful
handling. Sorry, Veronica. Good evening, everyone. Michael Phillips with Claire Harrison here on behalf of 415 to 17 South 15th Street. Keith Alliott, the property owner, is here, as well as Evan Litvin from LO Design. Will be walking you through the plans. I know we have it's been a long night, so I will keep my comments brief and allow Evan to share his screen. But I briefly just want to note this is the adaptive reuse and interconnection of existing historic properties at 415 to 17 and 419 South 15th Street. The unity of use right now is just pending consolidation, formal consolidation of the properties. The use would be as 32 residential units. I believe it said 36, but after working the floor plans, that's been reduced now to 32. The property was most recently used as the offices for the Pennsylvania Society to Protect Children. So this is a true adaptive reuse. We've received conceptual approval from the Philadelphia Historic Commission after an iterative process that both included receiving approval for the massing that you're about to see, as well as the materials and details. And as you'll see when Evan walks you through them, it's very important from the historic standpoint to not mix the old historic fabric with anything that looks like you're trying to replicate it. So you really have to go through a process where the materials and the new construction does not overwhelm the existing historic fabric. And I think Evan and Leah did a great job with that. I'll briefly just go through the 3 refusals for turning things over. The first is the roof deck setback. That's at Waverly Street, which Evan will walk you through, is a narrow street. We've already spoken with the property owner across the street at Waverly. They have no objection to the setback. And this is, again, born out of the fact that we technically have 2 front streets. So we would have to maintain a front setback for the rear decks along 15th and Waverly. And here we just don't have the footprint to do it at Waverly. The other 2, height and open area, really are born by the need to interconnect these 2 properties and maintain consistent cornice lines and height. So, owing to those technical aspects, I'll have Evan walk you through the basis for those refusals and the project and what we're looking to do.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to CCRA for hosting us. I'm Leah Litvin of LO Design. The existing building, as everyone has mentioned, consists of a series of historic buildings that have been combined over the course of 150 years. This includes 2 historic brownstones, as you can see here, and a double carriage house. The buildings previously functioned as an office space for almost 100 years and have been retrofitted over time to serve that use. The property shown here in blue is located in the CMX1 zoning district. The nearest most restrictive zoning base district is RM1, which sets the dimensional requirements. But because the building has a formerly commercial use and lies within a designated historic structure, the use is set by the CMX3 base district. The project we're proposing is a 32-unit multifamily building. And as you can see in the rendering from 15th Street looking southeast towards Waverly, the addition incorporates a dramatic setback from the main historic structure. The new interventions are intended to show deference to the historic elements through alignments and setbacks. The addition is designed to sensitively differentiate itself from the historic structure, but also to reinforce the contrast between the new and the old. The project, which is located in the Rittenhouse-Fittler Historic District, was reviewed and approved at the December 13th Historical Commission meeting. And as you'll see, the design is the direct result of a delicate response to a significant piece of this neighborhood's historic fabric. The restrictive layout and configuration of the historic buildings create a clear hardship, which drives the 3 refusals that we're here to talk about. And we'll briefly, I will walk you around the block. This is showing the main facade of the building along 15th Street. This is looking south down 15th Street, the first image closer to Pine and the second closer to Waverly. And this is a view down Waverly towards Carlisle. And an additional view down Waverly where you can better see the brick infill and the interventions to the existing original structure. And these 2 views show the current rear yard where you can see how the building has been added onto and modified over the course of its lifespan. One primary goal for the project is to restore key elements of the historic structure and clarify the design so that the new and old are clearly defined. This diagram shows the existing structures, the darker blue illustrating 415 to 17 South 15th Street, which has already been added onto in the back, and the 419 South 15th Street building further south, which has also been added onto over time in the rear. And this diagram shows the proposed additions. There are 3 main components to the project aside from the restoration of the historic building. The first is a 2-story connector from the mansard of the corner building to the 4th floor of the 419 South 15th Street building. A connector from the mansard to the main rear addition is the second piece. And finally, the rear addition, which sits on top in the front of the historic carriage houses and extends back, connecting to 419 South 15th Street, creating a new large internal courtyard. And as a way to reduce the impact of the historic building, the design intentionally repurposes the existing circulation inside the building. Circulation elements include a commercial elevator, fire-rated stair enclosures, you can see here in blue, and a few notes about the plans. We're adding an exterior path through the ground floor, which you can see over here, connecting the interior courtyard to Waverly Street and creating an additional access point for residents. And to make up for the inefficient layouts within the historic buildings. The addition in the back is configured as a double-loaded corridor for efficiency. On the left is the existing site plan with a proposed site plan on the right, showing how the addition is sited and how it connects to the historic building. As you can see, the connector additions that I mentioned before are set back significantly from the street, aligning on this side to the cornice of the mansard.
There are 3 refusals that we're here to discuss: building height, minimum open lot area, and the roof deck setbacks at Waverly Street, all of which stem from the fact that this is an adaptive reuse project of an existing historically designated building. The first refusal we'll discuss tonight is the building height. In the RM1 district, 38 feet is allowed as of right. The existing buildings have a range of roof heights, the highest of which is the mansard at the corner of 15th and Waverly, currently set at 49 feet 6 inches. The refusal shows the proposed height as 52 feet 1, though it is important to note that this is only a very, very small area where there's a roof monitor window proposed at the intersection of the old building and the new building. As you can see in the site section diagram, the area highlighted in orange signifies existing structure. After working closely with the Historical Commission, much of the original framing of the building will remain intact. The levels step down to the rear of the structure, with the framing of levels 2 and 3 largely dictating the height of the rear addition. As we mentioned, the level 4 and roof dimensions are driven by 2 existing conditions: the existing sill heights in the newly restored carriage house and the existing framing of level 2 and 3. The main cornice line forms a key alignment with the new 4th floor windows that creates a clear datum and relationship to the existing historic building. Much of what you see in this elevation is set back and minimally visible from the street. The second refusal we will discuss is minimum open area. Code requires 20% and we are proposing 13%. The historic building on the site and the general configuration of the existing buildings makes this minimum difficult to achieve. For instance, the historic carriage house on Waverly Street extends to the property line. And while new construction maintains the appropriate minimum, and the new portion of the building that's new construction, maintains the appropriate minimum setback, this portion of building would add another almost 400 square feet of open area. Considering that the rear setbacks meet the code requirements, the other opportunity for open space is the inner courtyard. However, if the courtyard were to hypothetically get larger, increasing the open area, this change would not be visible to the street or impactful to neighboring buildings. The section diagram through the courtyard illustrates that the open area within the space is more generous than the open area calculation implies. There's an overhang at the ground floor at the addition, as well as a small addition to the historic structure, which is actually just rebuilding something that was already there. It's also important to note that this is a particularly dense block. Even with 13% open area at the proposed site, this is well within the typical range of lot coverage for the block, as you can see from the diagram at left and the aerial image at right. The third and final refusal is for the roof deck setback from Waverly Street. There are 2 decks that fall into the setback as noted in the green above, one on level 3 and the other on level 4. Both of the decks are in locations within the buildable zoning envelope. However, as part of the Zoning Historical Commission process, we incorporated the setbacks where the new building meets the old. Because of these massing decisions, the interior spaces were made deliberately smaller. These modest outdoor spaces are private to their respective units and are a way to add back some living space. The 2 decks that fall within the 5-foot setback face the relatively low traffic block of Waverly Street between Carlisle and 15th. This block contains a large multifamily building that itself contains 5 large projecting balconies. The rest of the block includes a single-story garage. The bulk of the visible material palette will remain unchanged. There will be a dramatic facade restoration to the existing brick, windows, and trim. We'll also be restoring the main entrance with a door to match the original. The proposed addition will be clad in Virock or a similar fiber cement rain screen material in a light tone. There will be facade articulation emphasizing the window sills and header datums. As I mentioned, we'll be opening up the blocked-in windows and doors on the carriage house and installing new windows here. All exterior modifications relating to the historic building will be done in collaboration with and approved by the Historical Commission. The ground floor addition within the courtyard will be clad in a light-toned brick. Concrete pavers will coordinate in color with the new addition to the site, while the shared inner courtyard will be heavily landscaped.
And just as a friendly note, I'd just like to note that you're very close to the 10-minute time mark, just as a friendly note.
Understood. We're just going to run through a
up.
few renderings
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap up. So this is the main elevation, and this is the view from the corner of 15th and Waverly looking southeast. And as you'll see, As you step back towards Pine Street, the view becomes further and further obscured. This is a view looking northeast. You can see the two-story connector between 415 to 17 and 419 South 15th Street. This is a view looking due east down Waverly, and a view looking due west down Waverly. And here's an aerial view showing the relationship between the new construction and historic structure, resulting in the shared courtyard space. A view of the courtyard with the balconies and a sense of the landscaping. And this is really designed as a space for gathering that will be the central space in the building. And with that, we will turn it back to you.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for such a thorough presentation on 3 refusals and a multifaceted project. Let me open it up to the committee for questions. I'll just go ahead and start. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Jacob Cooper, any questions?
Hey, Evan and Leah, do you have an elevation of the east portion? Like the left side of that?
Yes, the back of the building, yes.
The back of the building, yeah. Just trying to get a sense of like, will there be windows on that back wall?
Yes. 1 second. Here you go.
Ah, cool. Or is it? Oh, awesome. So it's
Sorry.
There you go.
okay. Got it. Okay. That's all I wanted to see. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Karen Moskowitz?
No questions.
Joyce Lee?
Thank you for the presentation. A question, I guess, about the development is a significant investment. What is the applicant doing to improve the streetscape of the neighborhood? Are there going to be more trees planted? How are you handling bicycle storage and the like? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to try to answer. If I forget one of them, just remind me, because I do have an answer for each. Bicycle storage will be inside. There's an elevator in the building. There will be a dedicated bike storage area that meets the code requirement. There will be, you didn't ask, but I'll also mention there is an internal trash storage area as well. As far as the streetscape, I think the most important part of the streetscape is along Waverly Street, where we'll be opening up windows that have been long blocked in, and we'll be adding, eyes on the street. There will be actually a new access point into the courtyard space, which will be really, really nice moment in this project. As far as the trees are concerned, we're working with city planning on that, and actually there will be landscaping for the building in the form of planters, but no new trees will be added. There's actually a large, it's pretty well, there's mature trees along the front of the building as is.
And then just to jump on the tree issue, Waverly Street being as narrow as it is, and being one of the historic street within the historic street paving district, really doesn't have and can't support additional street trees there. So that's why the landscaping really will be focused within the courtyard, but you will see streetscape improvements as well, just due to the facade upgrades.
My last question is, the green roof looks very nice on the drawing. At this point, it is actually a PWD, a water department requirement, or is it something just voluntary that if the cost gets over budget, those things could be eliminated altogether?
It's voluntary, and the reason for it is because I want to see if I can find a rendering that shows it. The connector here, sorry, let me go to an elevation here. Sorry for making everybody dizzy. Well, along this roof here is where one of the roofs we're showing vegetated, where we're showing a green roof. There's a long panoramic window that goes along it. And as you step down from the higher portion of the 4th floor down to the lower 4th floor, you become almost at eye level with it. And the intention is for the green roof to just make it a little bit more pleasing. So you're just not looking at a raw, rubber roof there.
And the owner is committed to maintaining that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a large project. The intention is to do it. I mean, the intention is absolutely to do it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Sylvie Lorente?
Yes, so thank you for this presentation. More apartments potentially means more cars. Where are people going to park their cars?
Ideally, people here would commute by bike or walk. It's in the middle of the city, and there's no parking requirement for the zoning district.
Very close to public transit.
Yep, very close to public transit as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's one block from Broad.
there is no requirement from the city hall,
Correct.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
Yeah, will these all be market rate rentals?
They will.
Okay. Charles Robin, any questions?
Evan, very thorough and nice presentation. Could you just show us where the trash removal will take place?
Got it.
Off which street?
Sorry, it is off Waverly Street. Oop, did I pass it? There we go. Sorry. Right here. So at the entrance into the gate, I'm not sure if you're seeing my mouse, but as the entrance into the courtyard space from Waverly Street, there's a large room here.
And how do you, how will the commercial trash operators access?
They'll drive down Waverly Street and they'll have to come out and pull them out. So it'll be likely a series of either large toters or
Right. So they would have a key.
Yes.
Heat at the gate.
That's into the building.
Yes.
It's
This
exterior.
is exterior space. So this area here connects into the courtyard. So there you go through a gate, you walk through.
It's like covered exterior space.
Oh, I see.
This is the line of the overhang of the upper floor right here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Ben Weinrob, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right, Doug Meller, any questions?
No questions.
All righty, thank you. So now I'd like it to open it up to the community. If anyone in the community has a question, I will invite you to raise your hand and I will call on people in the order that I see hands go up. When I call on you, just please unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record. I see Colin Fanning and Alex Roeder. Apologies for any mispronunciations.
No worries. Hi, I'm Alex Roeder, and this is Colin Fanning. We live at 412 South Carlisle Street, which is on the corner of Waverly and Carlisle, so we'll be your behind the building neighbors. Super excited to see an adaptive reuse of these buildings. They've been empty for way too long, and excited about the possibility of having 32 new neighbors in the neighborhood. Waverly Street, I wanted to mention, is already bordered by the former Pierce College building, so it's already pretty tall. So the height there, I don't think would affect us very much. And we're really excited to hear that the old interventions on Waverly would be restored to historic status. Those bricked over windows and doors and that sliding gate door are pretty ugly. So it's nice to hear that. We did have one concern and one question, which Colin's going to mention.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for the presentation and congrats on, I think, a really interesting and innovative solution to a really sort of difficult set of existing circumstances with those two buildings.
Thank you.
We unfortunately had an internet hiccup right as you were answering the question about bike storage, which is what we also wanted to ask. We noticed in the plans that there was a bike rack shown on the Waverly side, but of course the sidewalk there is barely, a person's width. So if you don't mind briefly repeating, could you talk a little bit about bike storage plans?
Yes. So, and it's nice to meet you guys as well. The plan for the bike storage has bounced around a little bit. So we did show it on the sidewalk, and you're definitely right, it's too narrow. So our plan is to put it in the inside. So there's an elevator that'll go down to the basement, and we'll have a nice dedicated bike storage space.
Awesome. That's awesome. I also just wanted to say for context to Charles's question that the trash removal plan, you've outlined is actually exactly what already existed with the prior office tenant. That sort of metal grill was where they left their trash bags, and so the trash operator would just pick them up from there. And same with Pierce College, actually, which is now, of course, turning over to residential use.
Yeah.
And so I just, being a sort of good neighbor, not in any official capacity or anything, you know, I appreciated your point about the open space kind of averages across this block, the houses along Carlisle behind the site. Definitely don't enjoy the kind of standard 9-foot setback minimum that's now required. So I just would encourage you, as you're kind of refining and finalizing the design, to think about any ways that you could give our other neighbors, you know, a little more remediation, or kind of to sort of tone down that cliff face of that rear wall a little bit, because I don't see any of them on the call here tonight, but I know that that would be something they'd be interested in, you know, hearing about and hearing your thoughts on.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns or statements from the community? I invite the community members to raise their hands, or at this point to just unmute themselves. Okay. Not hearing any, I will go ahead and we'll close hearing this case. Thank you very much for a very clear and thorough presentation of what seems to be what is definitely a multifaceted project. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So at this point, we're now going to move into the committee meeting. So everyone who is not a committee member, thank you for attending, and you please feel free to leave the meeting at this time. And let me say, Jacob, did you have something you wanted to say, but you didn't get to it? Or are you good?
I'm all set. Yeah, enough
Okay.
was said. All good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me just see.
And you can stop recording too now.
I do, and I see a Dennis Cormier, so I'm going to move him into the waiting room. And I also see Lisa Smith Goldman, and I'll move her into the waiting room. And now I will stop recording. Let me just see where that is. Here we are.